All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video as the Niners on this day cut down their roster from 90 men to 53 men. We'll tell you how they did it, and we'll go into all the particulars next. Of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. And this video is brought to you by Claw Daddy Arcades. Great follow on Instagram at Claw_Daddy_Arcades to find a location near you. And you see their logo on the top of the screen as well. Thanks to Claw Daddy Arcades. And there are links to all of our sponsors in our description below. All right, let's get into the day that was. The 49ers, like every other team in the NFL, had to cut their roster down to 53 men. And they did so. They got it done. And it was good to see. They paired the roster. Now, of course, it was a little bit, there were some surprises. There always are. And there were surprises this year, probably more so than some years. How about Sebastian Valdez not making it for the 49ers? I thought that was unfortunate. And I would say kiss him goodbye. I mean, no way he's coming back. Very, very discouraging that you lose a guy with that kind of motor, that kind of talent, and to keep some of these other guys really, really questionable. Really, really questionable. All right, let's go into some of the moves that were made today by the 49ers. All right, they will start off with they decided to release the following players: Robbie Chosen, Michael Dunn, Russell Gage Jr., Jonathan Garvin, Trevis Gibson, Bruce Hector, Isaiah Hodgins, Fabian Moreau, Thomas Morstead. That's right, they don't have a punter. Curtis Robinson. These guys were all cut loose today. So by the 49ers, they were all released. Those players were released. In addition to those players, Chaz Surratt, Malik Turner, and Jeff Wilson Jr. Now, the Niners also waived some players. These are players, non-veterans. These are usually younger players that have to clear waivers and will be exposed to every other team in the league. Junior Bergen, Stone Blanton, William Bradley King, Derek Canteen, Dallas Flowers, Jalen Graham, Jalen Mahoney, Drake Nugent, Tariq Owen, Sebastian Valdez, Braden Willis, and Nick Sakel. So that's that list of people. And then they activated Yatir Gross-Matos off the physically unable to perform list. They placed Kevin Givens and Jacob Robinson on the injured reserve. Givens has a pec. Robinson has a what's his injury? Robinson's a broken forearm. Givens is designated to return. Robinson is not. So Robinson's season is done. The Niners put on the PUP list Brandon Ayuk and Malik Mustafa. They put Curtis Rourke on the NFI list, the non-football injury list. And then they put Isaac Alarcon and Demarcus Robinson on the suspended list. So they are down to 53 men, 2 quarterbacks on their final roster, 5 running backs, 3 tight ends, 5 receivers, 10 O-linemen, only 2 specialists, no punter, 11 D linemen, only 5 linebackers, 4 safeties, and 6 corners. So, all right, there you go. There's the list. It's an interesting list. All right, let's go through it. If I sound a little exasperated, I kind of am, because I just, some of these cut downs are just, you sit there and go, why? Why are you cutting the roster down this way? And I'd love to defer to the Niners and just be like, they always get it right, but they don't. And they often get it wrong. So we will see if they got it right or wrong. Where do we start on this thing? Okay, first of all, Yatir Gross-Matos off the unable to perform list. He hasn't practiced all summer. He's not healthy. He hasn't been healthy. He's been a huge disappointment throughout his career. He's always had the talent, never had it's always been, he's got the physical ability. Wow, if he could just fulfill his potential, but he never does. He never does. So not really excited about Yatir Gross-Matos coming back to the 49ers because he doesn't do much. He doesn't get a lot done. When he's out there, he doesn't play all that well. But they invested money in him, and, Lynch doesn't want to look bad. So there you go. As far as the, two quarterbacks, okay, that makes sense, right? You go with the two quarterbacks. The other guys are not good enough to go with. So you go with probably those guys on the practice squad. We'll see who they, eventually put on their 17-man practice squad. 16 guys and Isaac Alarcon. 5 running backs: McCaffrey, Juice, Brian Robinson, Isaac Guerrero, Jordan James. Don't really have a problem with that. Other than, is Guerrero healthy? What can you really get out of Guerrero? Is James healthy? Are these guys durable? Are they just soft? Jordan James missed time with a finger break. He's a running back. He broke his finger. He didn't play with a broken finger, and he's a running back. So that's not good. Guerrero's had 9 different injuries. He's been here for, a year and a half, a little bit over a year, and he's been hurt all the time. And you just kind of wonder, does he like to play football? Does he not? Does he have the lowest pain tolerance of all time? Because he's always hurt. So I got a real concern about Guerrero and Jordan James, but you do have CMC and Brian Robinson 1-2, and it might be the best running back duo there is. Now, I would have gone with 2 tight ends. They went with 3: Kittle, Farrell, and Tongas. Tongas definitely outperformed Willis and Dwelly. So that was apt, even though you hate to lose good players for a third-string tight end, but whatever. Tongas is not bad. Tongas also has the versatility to play backup, fullback, and he can do a few things on special teams. So there you go. That one kind of makes sense. Then wide receiver. Pearsall, is going to be really difficult for them to find 5 guys, and it's going to be really difficult for them to find 5 guys. Still, they went with Pearsall, Sky Moore, who they just signed, who they just traded for, Jawan Jennings, who hasn't practiced in a month, Jordan Watkins, who hasn't practiced in weeks, and Jacob Cowing, who hasn't practiced. So they basically have no wide receiver core at all. I mean, it's Ricky Pearsall, Sky Moore, and 3 guys that, if there was a practice today, wouldn't be suiting up. So they're going to need other wide receivers. Now, interestingly enough, and we did a video on this a month ago or so, maybe 2 months ago, about how there was going to be good receivers. I mean, I did the exercise. I went through every roster in pro football, and I could see, at the beginning of training camp, that there was going to be good receivers that were cut here at the end. And sure enough, there were. And there's a bunch of them out there. I'd sign Raheem Jarrett right now. The Tampa Bay receiver, the former Maryland Terrapin. Raheem Jarrett could absolutely help the Niners. He can run. He's got good hands. He's Tampa Bay's got one of the best receiving cores in pro football. The Niners might have the worst. So Raheem Jarrett can't make Tampa's team, but he can make the Niners. So that's a name I would sign right away. To me, that's the best of these receivers that got cut. But there's some other guys on this list that are pretty interesting as well. And and this might not even be the full list, because I don't know if did we get Kansas City's? Did we get a good, reasonable feel on what Kansas City did? Did Kansas City get Elijah Badger back or not? That's the one. Let me just type in Chiefs cuts, because Elijah Badger would have been a guy that I would be really interested in if he was cut. Let's double check the Chiefs. Some of these teams really waited to the last second, and for whatever reason, their players are not on the list. So Tyquan Thornton did make it. Just checking Kansas City's list here. They cut Carson Steele. That's interesting. I'm just looking to see about their wide receivers. I don't see the Chiefs cut. The Chiefs cut Esapole, who might be of interest to the Niners. He's interesting. Offensive lineman who's pretty good. Yeah, I really don't see if the Chiefs. Maybe I'll just type in Elijah Badger and see if he got cut. But yeah, Elijah Badger would be a receiver that I think is really interesting. And did he make it? Did he not make it? I don't know. I can't seemingly find the Chiefs ultimate cuts here, if they cut him or not. I don't see it. But here are the other receivers: Laviska Shenault, Malachi Corley, who I've been talking about for a few months as well. He would be interesting. Deontay Johnson, probably not interested in him. He's got some issues. Robert Woods is older. Hunter Renfrow is cut. Heck, if you like Mr. Blue Hair, Dante Pettis is out there. He was cut. Mario Williams, who I told you was going to get cut by the Rams, he's out there. I'd be very interested in him. Matt Landers, the former Arkansas receiver who runs in the 4.3s, big tall guy. Brendan Rice, Jerry's kid. Giles Jackson from Freedom High School in Antioch. Michael Gallup, Tay Martin, the ex-Niner. McCole Hardman, cut by Green Bay. Donovan Peoples-Jones. Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So of those receivers, I mean, the guys I'd have the most interest in would probably be Raheem Jarrett, Malachi Corley, and maybe Mario Williams. But the 49ers are going to have to go after a receiver, whether they trade for one. Elijah Badger is another name that I would have a lot of interest in if he didn't make Kansas City's roster, because he's a versatile receiver who can play a lot of different spots. I think he makes a lot of sense for the 49ers if they could somehow make that happen. So the Niners have 5 wide receivers, but Jennings is holding out. Watkins has still got probably another week to go until he's ready. Cowing's going to be out for a long time. They love Cowing. I mean, they're treating Jacob Cowing like he's a good player. And there's no evidence that shows right now that he's a good player. So I thought that was interesting. But Cowing will probably be put on some kind of a list because he's not ready to roll. Jennings, if he doesn't show up, he's had a calf injury since March. So, but it's not serious. It's not serious, but it's a calf injury that he's had since March. And then Watkins has the high ankle sprain. So you got 3 of your 5 guys. Your second wide receiver is Sky Moore. You don't have a third wide receiver. So, yeah, I mean, Raheem Jarrett, Malachi Corley, trading for a receiver. The Niners, I think, will be very active here in the next couple of days. But once again, if Elijah Badger's out there, I'm very interested in the Kansas City Chief rookie. Otherwise, Raheem Jarrett, Laviska Shenault, Malachi Corley, Mario Williams. I think those, maybe McCole Hardman. I think those are probably the best receivers out there for the 49ers. So that's kind of an interesting spot. Then let's move to the offensive line. I thought the Niners were going to go with either 3 or 4 backups, go with 8 or 9. They went with 10. They went with their 5 starters: Trent, Barch, Brendel, Pooney, McKivitz. And then they went with Burford and Austin Pleasance and Connor Colby and Drew Moss and Matt Hennessy. So I thought that was interesting. You've got really 2. You got a first team line. You got a second team line. You don't need all those guys. You don't need Hennessy. They could cut Hennessy and just let Drew Moss play center. They really could. I mean, he's Ben Barch can play center. Brendel can play center. McKivitz can play center. Do you really need Hennessy? I would. To me, Hennessy's spot probably should go away to somebody else. They probably should only go with 9 offensive linemen. But how about that? They've got 2 tackles in Burford and Pleasance, neither of which looked all that great this summer in pass protection. So we'll see. But, once again, I mean, this is what happens when you don't have a good line. You have to take extra guys. Last year or 2 years ago was Matt Pryor. This year it's Burford and Pleasance. So I love Colby and Moss. I think they're the future. I'm glad they made it. That would have been painful to see those guys cut because I think those guys are future starters. I think Colby's a future starter. I think Drew Moss is a future starter. Hennessy, Burford, Austin Pleasance, they're not future starters. They're future backups. So will be interesting to see if they make any moves at the offensive line. I think they'll probably subtract one guy at least, probably Hennessy. The specialist, obviously Jake Moody somehow made the team, but there were other kickers that were out there. Matthew Wright, who kicked last year for the Niners when Moody got hurt, he's out there. Couple teams cut their kickers, so there's some kickers out there. But Jake Moody is the Niners kicker. John Weeks is their long snapper. They cut Thomas Morstead, so they will be re-signing Morstead. They're not going to go punterless. So Morstead, I guess, they just figured nobody's going to claim him, and he's a veteran. They want the roster spot, so they're playing games there. And then they'll re-sign Morstead to the roster here in the next couple days. They went with 11 D linemen: Bosa, Huff, Beal, Aquinu, Gross Matos, and Williams. So you go with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 defensive ends, 5 defensive tackles: CJ West, Alfred Collins, Evan Anderson, Kalia Davis, Jordan Elliott. That's interesting. I thought there was a chance Valdez would beat out Kalia Davis or Jordan Elliott, but they went with Kalia Davis and Jordan Elliott over Sebastian Valdez. And I would say they're a lock to lose Valdez. So and then they went with Beal over Travis Gibson. How about that? Beal hasn't done squat for 2 years. He had one good preseason game and is a decent special teamer, and they're all in. He's back. 6th-round pick from a couple years ago. I'd cut him. I would cut him. There are other guys out there. The Dolphins, by the way, cut Mo Kamara. Mo Kamara is a good player. He absolutely is. The Ravens cut K'Mon Rucker from North Carolina. I'd rather have K'Mon Rucker than Gross Matos. I'd rather have Kamara than Beal. I definitely would. Isaiah Foskey, the De La Salle kid, went to Notre Dame. Fadil Diggs from Syracuse. Josheen Davis from Wake. All pretty good young defensive ends that were cut. They're probably better than Beal, who hasn't done anything, and Gross Matos, who's hurt and really hasn't done anything. So I think that's a spot to upgrade. 11 D linemen, 11, probably one too many. And then you've got Beal and Yatir Gross Matos, so I think you can upgrade. 5 linebackers: Warner, Winters, Martin, the special teamer Gifford, and Tatum Bethune. That's not a surprise. If anything, it was a little bit of a surprise they didn't go a 6. I was saying go for Marlo Wax. He made the Charger roster, so that takes care of that. But Eugene Asante was released by the Dolphins with an injury release. He's definitely better than the 49ers' 6th linebacker. Chandler Martin by the Ravens was released. He's definitely better than the 49ers' 6th linebacker. So that will be something to watch. I mean, they don't have a 6th linebacker right now. So I'd go after Chandler Martin or Tatum Bethune. Not Tatum Bethune. Chandler Martin or Eugene Asante, and get a 6th linebacker on there. I'm fine with the first 4, but I'd like one more, and I'd like it to be Chandler Martin. He's spectacular. They went with 4 safeties. A lot of people were swearing they were going to trade Jair Brown. They didn't. Jair Brown, Jason Pinnock, Richie Grant, the veteran, and Marquise Siegel. So they brought in the veterans, Pinnock and Grant, in the offseason, and they both make the roster. And then Siegel makes it as well, and Jair Brown, and they've got Mustafa, waiting around. And then they went 6 corners. And we were debating, was it going to be Chase Lucas? Was it going to be Darrell Luter? We kind of all put Dallas Flowers on there. And I thought Flowers was cornerback 4, and instead he was cornerback cut. And maybe they just felt like Flowers has a better chance to find his way back to them than I'll say this. I'm glad they did this, because if they had cut Darrell Luter, he for sure would have been picked up off waivers. He's too young, too talented, too inexpensive, too unproven, too coachable, he's too good of a prospect to just cut him. And I'm glad they didn't. Finally they learned their freaking lesson. Preserve your young cornerback talent. You lost Sam Womack last year. You could have used him late in the year. I mean, you lost Sam Womack in the same year that you brought in other street free agents at corner. You can't do that. And they learned their lesson. So they kept Luter. Smart. That was smart. So they have 6 corners. Demo, Renardo, Stout, who looked great, by the way, working out on the side. I got to think he's going to play week 1. He looks healthy. Chase Lucas, and then Saron Neal, the special teamer. So interesting. 6 corners, 4 safeties, 5 linebackers, 11 D linemen. Only 2 specialists. We know they're going with 3, so they're going to have to carve out a spot for them, for Morstead, Thomas Morstead. He's going to have a spot. They're not going punterless. They currently have 10 O linemen, but I think that will probably be pared down by 1. It looks like they have 5 receivers, but in reality, they only have 2 receivers. Lynch said that Cowing for sure would not be ready for week 1, and that Gage might be. So maybe they'll wait and try to put Cowing on some kind of injured list. Watkins, I think they could probably carry for a week. He was going to be out a month. I think he hurt himself about 3 weeks ago. So he's maybe 2 weeks ago. So he's probably, if he doesn't play week 1, will play week 2. So maybe they can carry him for a week. Watkins, you knew was going to be on the roster. He had a great summer. So Pearsall, Sky Moore is their special teamer return guy, dual returner. Jennings, but where's Jennings? And then Watkins, and then Cowing. So what are you going to do with Jennings? Just going to let Jennings take up a roster spot? Jennings just miraculously going to show up week 1? Everybody's going to pretend like nothing happened, and then what if he has a soft tissue injury? There's nobody to blame, right? You can't blame him. You can't blame the Niners. You can't blame it. I would say it's about 65% chance if he does play in the first month that he winds up with some soft tissue injury week 1, 2, or 3. You can almost bank on that. So an interesting 53-man roster. They saved a spot at quarterback. They went pretty lean at running back. We'll find out. I mean, it's the CMC Brian Robinson show. I don't know if Garendo or James are going to contribute much early. They have 3 tight ends on the roster, and they have 5 receivers, but that's the spot that, something's probably going to happen with Cowing. Something has got to happen with JJ. So that's worth watching here in the next couple days. The offensive line, they kept their young rookies that really impressed this summer, Colby and Moss. That was good. They had to choose between Pleasance and Burford, and they just kicked that can down the road. They didn't make that call. And then they went with Hennessy. And I thought Hennessy looked bad all summer. I didn't think Hennessy looked good at all. He's supposed to be good. He's an established NFL center, but I didn't think he looked very good. They went with 2 specialists and are obviously going to try to squeeze Morstead on here in the next couple days, probably just for, try to get one more roster spot. And then 11 D linemen. 11 D linemen. That's a lot of D linemen. And, Sam Aquinu's not 100%. Gross Matos hasn't done anything all summer. Beal hasn't done anything at all in his entire career. So you got Star Bosa. You got a really good guy opposite him. You got your first round pick. And then you got, Beal, Aquinu, and Gross Matos. And I don't know about those guys, to be honest. We'll see. And then at tackle, you got West and Collins, the rookies, Anderson, Davis, and Elliott, the veterans. You probably can't do any better than that at the waiver wire. That's probably as good as it's going to get. They went 5 linebackers. I think they could definitely add a 6th. I would love to see Chandler Martin or Eugene Asante here. I think those guys would be tremendous additions. 4 safeties. Brown did not get traded. Jair, Pinnock, Grant, and Siegel. I think that's solid there. And then 6 corners. Demo, Bernardo, Stout, Luter, Lucas, and Neal. So overall, 49er roster, I think it looks pretty good. Now, there are people that are like, oh, this roster is bad. It's pathetic. It's not bad. It's a good roster. It's like, okay, what are you really getting out of your backup defensive ends? Is Aquinu and Gross Matos and Mikel, are they going to give you anything? That's the question I have. And then, do you need 10 offensive linemen? Seems to me like you probably should go with 8. I think at the end of the day, I'd go with my starting 5, Burford, Colby, and Moss, and cut Hennessy and Pleasance. Or if you want to go with Pleasance over Burford, go with Pleasance, Colby, and Moss, and cut Burford and Hennessy. But I think they've got 10 right now, but I would imagine they're eventually going to get to 8. 3 tight ends, 5 wide receivers, but they're really going to be scouring that wide receiver market. And, once again, Raheem Jarrett, God, he would look great in a Niner uniform. Either Laviska Shenault or Malachi Corley, those guys would look good in a Niner uniform. Mario Williams would look great in a 49er uniform. Elijah Badger, if he got cut, would look great in a Niner uniform. So I'm looking for additions at wide receiver. Just looking at the cut down list, I would love to see the Niners get another linebacker, Eugene Asante or Chandler Martin. I think that would be fantastic. Marlo Wax did make the Chargers, so his great weekend and great preseason netted him a spot on the roster after all. But there's some interesting players. There's some interesting running backs out there. There's some interesting receivers. I thought there were some interesting quarterbacks. If you decided you wanted to add a quarterback, Seth Hennigan got cut by Jacksonville. Kyle McCord, Taylor Elgersma. I'd be interested in all 3 of those quarterbacks. But the guys that I'm most interested in would be receivers. Raheem Jarrett, Shenault or Malachi Corley, Mario Williams, Elijah Badger. Those are the receivers I'm looking for. I'm looking for a couple linebackers, maybe just one, but out of Eugene Asante, Chandler Martin, I think there's a linebacker to be picked off there. And I would, if it was me, I would absolutely get rid of Beal and Gross Matos and replace them with Kamon Rucker from Baltimore and Mo Kamara from the Dolphins. Kamara played at Colorado State. He's an aggressive edge rusher, 260 pounds. Kamon Rucker's a little shorter, 6'1", 260. Some people think he's an outside linebacker and a 3-4, but he's a pass rusher. I like Rucker and Kamara a whole lot more than Beal and Gross Matos. They're a little smaller, but they're better pass rushers. They're going to give you better pass rush. They're healthier. So that's all I'd be looking at the cut down. Seth Hennigan really impressed me in the Gruden quarterback school thing. He's very sharp and he's very accurate. So, let's just say Tanner Mordecai or Gus Bradley's kid, Carter Bradley, whatever reason, you can't get those guys back on the practice squad. Or even if you could get, you choose between one of those 2 guys, I wouldn't mind having 2 quarterbacks, and I would take a shot on Seth Hennigan. I absolutely would. Or Taylor Elgersma or Kyle McCord. I think those, taking a flyer on a quarterback, I think here makes sense. As I said, I like Mo Kamara of the Dolphins and Kamon Rucker of the Ravens more than Gross Matos and Beal. I'd make that change. I would definitely add a 6 linebacker, and I want Chandler Martin or Eugene Asante. And then, to me, it's a no-brainer. Go sign Raheem Jarrett right now. Go sign that guy right now. That Raheem Jarrett would, I think, not only be a good Niner receiver, he might be one of their better receivers. I think he's really solid. Really like him quite a bit. All right, that is our breakdown of the 49ers, what they got done today. Only the 2 quarterbacks. It's unusual, but, we kind of targeted that a while ago that they were going to go 2 quarterbacks. Not a lot of surprises in the running back room for sure. A lot of people thought they were going Jeff Wilson, but Jeff Wilson's going to clear waivers. Anybody could have had Jeff Wilson. They weren't going to cut Jordan James to give a roster spot to Jeff Wilson. Even if they like Jeff Wilson, even if he's a Niner this year, anybody in the league could have had him. So it's about, a lot of today's stuff is about who do you think will get through the waiver thing? And I think, they just released Jennings. He's not even subject to waivers, but Jordan James wouldn't have gotten through the waivers. Jennings is on the roster, but they're Cowing was not put on the injury list yet. That's going to happen probably tomorrow, I would say. You're going to see Cowing put on that injured list, and they're going to have to do something with JJ. They went with 3 tight ends. Last year, they went with 4. They went with 10 O linemen. I was glad to see them keep Drew Moss. And I do think they're going to dump a couple of those linemen. My guess is it's Hennessy and Pleasance. They went with 11 D linemen. They activated Gross Matos. They lose Sebastian Valdez, but who knows? Maybe they'll get lucky. Maybe he'll clear waivers. He's not clearing waivers. There's no chance. Valdez is not clearing waivers because too many teams know about him. Too many. The highlights get around. He's not clearing waivers. He's going to get picked up. Curtis Robinson. I know there are a lot of people that want to see Rob on this roster, but he, with all the physical things he's been through, I think he was a guy. It was smart to cut him because nobody's going to pick him up, and he's just thought to be a guy that's going to be here, and he'll be back. He'll be back on the practice squad. And then, way to go, Chase Lucas. Way to go, Chase Lucas. He had a great summer, made the roster, and unbelievably, I think it's an absolute screw up of huge proportion to take Chase Lucas over Dallas Flowers. But once again, they're playing this game of who's going to get through the waiver period. And maybe they didn't feel like Lucas would get through waivers, where Flowers, maybe they feel like they can get him back. Safety, if there was a surprise, it was Richie Grant making the roster. And then obviously Morstead's going to be back in the next 24 to 48 hours. So interesting day. Very happy that Connor Colby and Drew Moss are part of their future. Don't love the wide receiver room. Think that they probably need to shed themselves of a couple of the O linemen. I would I would trade out a couple of those D linemen for better, healthier D linemen, have a better future. And my big move is give me Raheem Jarrett at wide receiver off waivers. Give me Chandler Martin or Eugene Asante at linebacker. To me, you've got a really good linebacker in Nick Martin. But Chandler Martin's right there. He could be like another Nick Martin. Eugene Asante's right there. He could be another Nick Martin. And if you don't believe me, go watch the highlight films of those guys. If you don't believe that, go watch the summertime preseason action of the Dolphins and the Ravens. If you don't believe that, go look at the box scores and see how Asante and Martin produced this summer. These guys are great players, and they're great guys. And if I were them, I would grab those guys. If I could get both of them, I'd get both of them. You can never have enough run and hit linebackers. And both those guys are outstanding. All right, that is our video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles and our good friends at Claw Daddy Arcades. And thanks to all of you for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube,